What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Art of Show podcast. This week, we're hanging out with Alan Stewart, and we're going to talk about all things character design, including the Powerpuff Girls.
Welcome to the Art of Show, where we feature the people who are creating amazing stories for kids. Join us as we chat with children's book illustrators and authors, storyboardists, animators, and more. Now, their art might be for kids, but aren't we all just kids at heart? Here's your host, Brandon.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Art of Show. We're hanging out with Alan Stewart this week, but before we dive into his interview, I want to let you guys know thank you so much. We've had a lot of you guys leaving ratings and reviews over on iTunes as well as here on YouTube. If you guys are watching this, what's up? If you guys can subscribe and give a thumbs up, that would be awesome. These interviews are a lot of fun to do, and I can't do them without you. So that is the number one way you can help support the show. But so let's talk about Alan. Alan is a character designer, and he works a lot on the pre-development side of things. So what it looks like to design a character before it goes into production. And so we get into what it's like to create a great character. I actually ask him what really separates the great characters from the okay ones in his eyes. And so he dives into that as well as his process. And he has also come out with his very own art of book. So it's Art of Alan Stewart. And he's got tons of great designs. You can see his process. And we actually get into the weeds a little bit on what it's like to kind of compile all of your life's work into a best of book, and so what that looks like. So without further ado, let's dive into the interview with Alan. All right, well, we want to welcome you guys back to the Art of Show. We're hanging out with Alan Stewart. Today, he's chilling up in Canada, and Alan is an amazing character designer who's worked on tons of different projects. When folks ask you what you do that are outside of maybe television or even the design and illustration world, how do you describe to them what you do?
I like just doing like a lot of sketches just for fun,
Yeah.
primarily. Because the only reason why I even got into the business was because I just liked drawing.
Okay.
So I guess when I get free time, it's just drawing for fun, drawing silly things. I draw with my kids at times, and
That's cool. How old are your kids?
5. I had to think here. 8, 9, and 12.
Oh
And
man,
I have
you've
an
got
older girl who's 15.
okay. You've
Yeah.
got a full house then.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
good stuff. Well, we'd love to get into your story and kind of how you got into what you're doing now. And so, growing
Okay.
up, were your parents artistic, or was it something that was in the genes, or how'd you get into it?
Well, yeah, interestingly, my mom, she was a painter, but not really professionally. And she's the one who really, I would say, pushed me into the art world. Not forcefully or anything, but we grew up on a farm, and I think she always wanted to be a painter.
Yeah.
And she did it on the side. So at night when my dad was watching TV, he'd always be bugging her to watch TV with him, but then she'd sneak off and draw and paint and things like that.
Yeah.
Or sometimes she'd have a sketchbook while watching TV, and that's, I guess, where I picked it up.
What type of stuff would she paint or sketch?
Like realistic things like animals, and it wasn't ever anything like cartoony like what I got into, but she was very much realism and things like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mhm.
So you just picked it up from watching your mom and kind of doing the things your mom was doing?
Yeah, exactly. And then from that, I met other artists and so on. I think that's like the best way, obviously, to learn. Like anyone will tell you, it's like just more of an apprenticeship thing, learning from other artists.
So
Yeah.
what were the things you were drawn to as a kid? What were the things that you were drawn?
Like when I was a little kid, it was like I'd get obsessed with things. So I got obsessed with like sharks. So I'd draw sharks all the time. Then at one point I got obsessed with, like as I got older, I was more into working out and bodybuilding. So I got obsessed with drawing muscle.
Yeah.
And then, and it was always different obsessions that I had, but I always get so focused on just like one area. And like for the longest time, I was drawing like just monsters, like all the time, just monsters. So just that. And then as I got older, I got into anime and things like that. And
That's cool.
then Disney, once I went to animation school, and then I got more into Disney there because that's where they introduced me to more Western art
Gotcha.
kind of thing.
That's
Yeah.
real cool. So where'd you go to school? So after high school, where'd you go to college?
I went to college here in Ottawa,
Okay.
Algonquin College.
Okay.
So I took back then it was only a 2-year program. It's kind of almost like a fast track version of animation.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I took.
How are your parents with you going after a creative career? Because we talked to some folks who are like, you need to do like engineering or don't go into the arts. How are they with you?
Okay, so my parents at first, my mom obviously was supportive for anything I do, but my dad's more of the realistic type. So
Yeah.
he said, you need to get a trade. So he was always telling me to get a trade, which I did actually after college. I ended up going into the trades, but it didn't work out so well because if you're not really meant for something, it doesn't pan out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at night, I'd come home from construction and I'd draw every night. So what I ended up doing was just starting doing studio tests and then got into the studios. But yeah, my dad, once he saw that I was really focused on it, then he was really supportive after that. Especially there was one time when Disney Australia called the house, and then he kind of was like, okay, just what you're doing.
It's like when Disney's on the phone, you're doing pretty good. So
yeah, it was pretty cool. So
that's cool. So you mentioned doing studio tests. Yeah. So how did you get into the industry then?
Well, it's a weird way in. I have a really good friend of mine who I teach with at the college here, and he was forcing me because I'm very much introverted. I don't like putting things online. I only started doing that recently, but way back then he told me to get a website, and then I ended up getting picked up by just some I don't know if it's like a manager or something, but he hired me basically to do animation work, but it was like sort of satellite from Iceland, which was weird. And so he'd get these contracts and then he'd get me to do them. He'd pay me American money. I still was living in my parents' house. That's how I got in. I was doing like commercials, storyboards, design, but it was all just like everything. Like I had to do the whole thing because it was just me and then a manager and that's it.
That's cool. Since you were going basically through the entire process, was there an element that you just loved doing? Or was the whole process kind of fun for you?
Well, no, there's elements I don't like. So anything
what do you not like?
I got more into, at the beginning of my career, I was doing digital animation and things like that. And I'll be honest, I know I have friends that really love it, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
Anything that involves clicking the mouse too much, I hate.
Okay.
So if it's just really traditional drawing or anything that feels like drawing, I like that.
Yeah.
So whether it's like painting, color, anything like that, cleanup even, I like that. But anything that's like just clicking a mouse and clicking menus, you've lost me.
Yeah, you're not in Maya doing character rigs and all that kind of stuff.
No, to me that's like back in primary school doing math and stuff like that. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's too close to it. That's cool. So you were doing that with the company. What was the company, or what was the projects you were working on? What were they like?
Do you mean the very first ones, or?
Yeah, like the first ones you started out doing.
Okay, it was traditional, which was cool. So drawing it on paper and then scanning it in and like cleaning it up on the computer, things like that. But it was like literally like commercials for banks and things like that. And yeah, it was cool because it got me like on this wide range of learning. So it wasn't just characters. I got more into characters later on in my career, but it was like literally doing everything like storyboards and coloring, sometimes even background, which I'm terrible at. But I had to do it all, kind of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So how did you get more into character design and some more of the work you're doing now?
Really forcefully, I would say. I had a director on one of my first shows when I was here in Ottawa. He's a former, Don Bluth storyboard artist. So he was like a really good artist, and I really wanted to work with him. And I was doing what's called key animation posing at the time. So that's back when they had like traditional poses that you'd actually put in a show. Yeah. Whereas now it's all digital. But anyway, I don't know if it was every day, but it was a couple times a week where I'd bug him and like drop drawings off in his office, like very persistent, because I did not want to go back to construction.
Yeah.
So and I would show up all the time and just always be dropping off drawings. And then I remember even when I'd finished my contract, I called him back and said, "Hey, is there any design work?" And I was just really annoying. But I think it paid off because he didn't forget me, because I don't know how he could, because I was bugging him all the time. Yeah. So, and just all that time drawing a lot and trying to show him that I'm learning.
That's cool.
That's how I got more into character design. So he called me back, gave me a character design job where I was full time doing character rotations and mouth charts like all the time. So that's lip syncs for animation. I was doing that all the time. So that's cool. Yeah. What was that first project that you were working on? That was The Secret World of Benjamin Bear, which I'm sure no one's ever heard of. Okay. But anyway, it was really cool because it was all done in almost like obviously like a kind of watered down Don Bluth style because of, the guys that were working on it. And it was really good for learning really structural drawing. So it was really intense because like everything was traditional, like drawing rotations by hand and everything. That's cool. So, that's really cool. So how did you get connected with Cartoon Network and more of the TV animation stuff? Well, for Cartoon Network, that was a friend of mine, Dean, he'd end up moving out there, and I found most of my jobs were just like, hey, I know this person,
Yeah.
and because again, I don't pump out a lot of work online. It's more or less people that I'd worked for. And
That's cool. So then you were on, was it Powerpuff Girls? Is that right?
yeah,
Doing
yeah, the
characters?
newest one.
The newest one. So what's that kind of look like for folks that maybe they don't know how TV, maybe they're familiar with feature animation, but
Yeah.
when you're working TV, what's that schedule like? Because I got to imagine you guys are pumping out so much work.
Well, the thing is with me, I'm a bit of an odd one, I would say, because sometimes I'll be on 3 shows at once, plus I teach
Jeez.
classes.
Yeah.
So I do a lot. And then what's weird is I was just talking to my wife yesterday because things had slowed down. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't have much to do. So she's like, okay, well, just why don't you enjoy it? But then I wanted to draw and paint and do other things. But the schedules are pretty intense. And I usually write lists and, but I don't like avoiding family time. So what I do is I'll work pretty intense hours, and then I have a cutoff point, and I don't care about work after that.
Gotcha.
Like, let's say if it's 6 or 7 o'clock, that's it. I don't touch work, and I, go to bed and get up the next day, start it again.
Gotcha. So yeah, what's like a typical day for you now, working? How do you bounce it all?
Well, it's kind of, I like it the way it is now, because like I'll go in and teach a class, and usually classes are about 2 hours.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll have like 3 in a row, but then I'll do studio work either before or after that time. And so I've got an arrangement with the college I'm teaching at now, and then with the studios where they know my teaching schedule, and I work it out that way. It's really cool.
That's cool.
And I feel like teaching it also balances like doing it in the studios and vice versa. It really influences each other. Yeah,
because you usually hear folks that maybe they're past their kind of prime of production and they're teaching what they've learned, but that's really cool. I mean, you're literally you're teaching and doing the work in the same day. So
yeah, because I did drop out of teaching right at the beginning of my career. I was teaching at the same time, which was kind of weird. And then I felt like, well, I'm not qualified to teach. So then I dropped teaching, and then I just did full-time character design like all the time and did the crazy schedules. And then what was weird is the company I was working for decided not to pay us for a couple months, which I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
So then I got scared. I'm okay, I'm never doing that again. I would rather have extra work than do that, go 2 months without pay, especially with a family. You can't do that. So that hasn't happened again since. But I think it's because now I'm more, you're more active at looking for jobs and things like that.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Rather than just like putting it all in one basket. I feel like maybe now I could, but back then it wasn't smart because I wasn't well known enough. Yeah.
How has your work improved since you are teaching at the same time? Like, have you found that your fundamentals are stronger, or what's that look like?
What I kind of like is that I teach in a fundamentals course, which is awesome. Because I remember hearing this taught to me way back when I was in college. A master is a master of the basics. And I always thought, well, okay, that means it's one of those things you're going to have to always revisit. So like, for example, I taught life drawing for years. That's where you're measuring the form and trying to get the proportion right. So if I'm teaching students that, I better know what I'm talking about. So then at the beginning of every year, I'd try to get in a bit early and teach it to myself again. So I did that for about 7 years of just practicing measurements and things like that, and drawing skulls and skeletons. And so I feel it's really important, because like I feel like it all runs off each other, right? Like if you know the skeleton, then you can gesture fairly well, because that's all a gesture is. It's you're drawing the skeleton in different positions. Yeah,
that's real cool. So has there been, I guess you mentioned that you just like having multiple projects. So you're working on 3 different shows sometimes at a time, and then you're still doing side stuff. And you mentioned that time when there wasn't a lot going on, but you still wanted to work. What do you think it is that is inside of you that makes you want to produce and create?
I don't know. I'm going to say maybe ADD or something, but like,
that's a great reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just like, I've always had something going on, I guess, because I grew up in a busy family, even though I know it wasn't art, but like a farm runs 7 days a week. You know what I mean? So I grew up seeing my dad work every single day. Yeah. And we did have like downtime and things like that, but I always grew up around people working. I never thought, and I didn't complain about working. I just grew up around people working. So yeah, I assume that's
you just like what working.
You do.
Yeah.
I do. Well, here's the thing. I do like working, but I really love my weekends. Like I love it when work's all shut down, and I feel like I've earned that time. It's really important because like I love hanging out with the kids and stuff. So I've made it so now Saturday and Sunday I don't draw at all. Like sometimes Saturday I'll sketch a bit, But Sunday I don't draw at all. And then I feel really refreshed to work hard again on Monday, Tuesday, and the rest of the week.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, are you working traditionally or working digitally? A little bit of both?
A little bit of both. If I'm working on a TV show, like a production schedule, I'm usually working digital right away on the Cintiq. And if it's new development, a lot of times what I like to do is I draw it out on paper, and then I'll take a picture with my phone, email it to myself, and then clean it up on the Cintiq.
Okay, that's cool.
I love that feeling of paper still. I can't get away. I draw on paper every day. So yeah, I love it.
Do you have, what's your sketchbook look like, or your sketchbook process? I know folks are super particular sometimes how they do it and what they draw.
Got it right in front of me if you want to see it.
That's perfect. Yeah, what was the last thing you drew in it? Wow, all over, yeah.
Oh, and then I've literally got a stack like this thick just down there.
That's awesome.
Tons of drawings, and that's like, this is my sketchbook. It's not really, but like, I don't know if you can see these, but they're not, I don't know. I can't be bound to like a book. I find I get too stressed out.
Okay.
I like just separate sheets. If I am in a sketchbook, I feel like I get too precious with it. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'll grab this. I'll show you what I do generally on a day. So I have like a clipboard here. I took all of them off. But I'll do these like studies. Lately I've been on to like copying like Mighty Mouse and things like that. Yeah, and I get the students doing that too. I'm not sure if I'm getting really annoying yet, but I feel like the old cartoon masters, they really knew what they're doing. So I'll pull up a bunch of old comics and we'll just sketch that out, sketch out the composition, sketch out the characters, break it down. That's cool. That's what I'll do on a sketch day. And then if I have like an idea, I'll quickly sketch that out after, and then I'll bring it in, clean it up, and post it.
That's cool. Take us through, if you're, say you've got a new character that you're working on and you've got some details about their personality and maybe a little bit of their visuals, how do you approach designing a character? What's your kind of process look like?
Okay, so generally what I'll do, first thing, I guess I'll go on Google Images and just sort of scan through. I won't really like copy anything yet. And then I'll open up a new document in Photoshop or whatever and just slide in any images that I saw that are interesting. Or sometimes I'll do like a print screen of that whole Google image page, and I'll get like 30 versions of whatever it is. Okay. And then I'll just start doing like some quick sketches. And I start picking away parts that I like. Let's say it's like, again, like a gorilla or something that I've drawn a lot of. I'll try drawing it in pencil first. And then what I'll do is I'll take all those pencil drawings and take pictures with my phone. And then I'll have them now on the computer. And I'll start cleaning up some, and then whatever ones are working, then those are the designs I go with, kind of thing. But I keep it super loose.
Yeah. When you say working, how do you define that? Like, is it a pose? Is it a feeling? Like, how do you know when you're getting closer to what looks right?
I guess like I get in these kicks. Remember I said when I was younger, I get in these like focused zones. So I guess lately what I'm focused on is like I really like to have one main body shape that really speaks to me, that's really states like this is the characters. For example, if it's like a big tough guy, I'd like to have like a big block torso shape, and as long as that shape's appealing to me, and I try drawing like the old school way of like drawing with like an action line, and I have all like the shapes running along an action line, as long as it's working from side to side, and if it feels solid and it sort of looks like the character before I've even put any details on, then I go forward with it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That's real cool. And so then do you go, is it all just line drawing at that point? Is color influencing anything at this point?
Depends. Like as I'm sketching, there'll be an odd time and I'll be like, okay, I got an idea, and then I'll do like a quick color palette, usually just 3 colors. I'll always pick like one main color, and then I'll have secondaries after.
Gotcha.
But I also have that story based. I think everything I try to do, I try to make at least some kind of a story. Like, so in other words, again, if it's like a big tough villain, like I want to go with like like a really strong red or whatever and black together to make it like look intimidating.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have, what's your obsession right now that you're stuck on?
I guess I'm getting into superheroes. I never really drew them much. Like I didn't really get many comics when I was a kid. Yeah. But now it's like lately I've been drawing superheroes because I'm like, well, I draw anatomy, so I might as well just try it out. But I don't know, it's been really fun.
That's crazy.
The last few posts.
Yeah, because you had like a Hulk that you posted at the time of this recording. This is late March, and it might have been yesterday, a couple days ago. And so I was like, man, he must have drawn like a ton of Marvel stuff as a kid. But you never drew. You never got into that stuff with anatomy or anything.
No, not really. Well, okay, for anatomy, yes. When I got started in college, the reason why I got really into drawing was I used to like Capcom art and Street Fighter and stuff
Okay.
like that. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
loved that stuff. So I would sketch that out. I'd be pausing the video and sketch from that.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Well, I know one of the things we wanted to chat about is you have your very own Art of book coming out. And we mentioned before we got on the show, one of the things I like to do with this podcast is almost just talk through the stories of folks' art, and Art of books do that visually in such an amazing way. How did that idea come about? Was there a point you're like, I should put something together of my body of work?
Yeah, well, actually, it happened a few times where I've had friends say, you should, because I have so many stacks of drawings in my office. Like, well, why don't you just make a book out of it? Because I also end up like giving them away or throwing them out or whatever.
Yeah.
And usually I'll give them to students. And,
okay, cool.
Anyway, and I've had people online like where they pay for them and things like that. But I've always wanted to do it, but I never thought I was ready. Like I realized this year I'm still not ready per se, but I'm just going to do it anyway. So I just hit a point where I'm like, I just have to do it, even though I don't feel like it. I'm doing it. I had a friend I teach with, Rich Lozon, and Stephen Silver is another one who's got a lot of books out. And he was the one saying, because I'd met him in LA, and he said, you should really come out with your own book.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I guess if I could say is what I wanted to do is have something that's away from studio property. That's my own.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Was it hard doing a book? Because I imagine you can't like include the characters that you've worked on for studios. No. So was it hard to take that out of your work, or had you just had such a backlog of everything else that you've worked on?
I have a huge pile to the point where I've left out like probably 1,000 images.
Oh, wow.
I didn't put in. Or thousands, like lots. There's stacks. So like what I did is I took the work from the last 2 years, because I was aiming to do it like a year or two ago, but I had a few different people drop the project kind of thing. And then I have a friend that's working on it now, and he's doing a great job. He's an excellent graphic designer. So he's putting it together quick. And it's all together getting printed. But I have enough to do even more books if I had to.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. How did you structure, or how did you put it together? How did you decide the images to include versus not include?
I guess I just did what I liked, because like I realized I'm like, for everything else, I'm getting told every day, change this eye, tweak that, do this, change this to a different color. For this art book, I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. And if people like it, great. If they don't, there's nothing I can do about it.
That's cool. And I know some folks, they'll talk through in Art of books, like maybe their artistic journey or a little bit of their like process. Is there any of that in it, or is it more of like a showcase? It's more like a showcase, but there's a little bit of here and there of like what I'm thinking. Okay. But it's only literally like I kept the text very minimal. Like, because I was again thinking like if I was buying an art book, I generally tend to just look at the pictures. Yeah. So I was thinking, I'm like, well, I'm just going to do this the way I want to do it, which is very minimal text. I have like a few forwards from different people. And then I have like the odd time you'll hit a new section, it'll tell you, what I was thinking at that time. That's about it. That's cool. And so when's it coming out? It's slated to actually be done printing by the end of April. Okay. So I just got a message literally from the printer today, and he's showing me all the different, he's done extra proofs, but they're actually printing the book physically now. That's cool. That's real cool. This interview will be coming out, I think, pretty close to that date. So we'll try to line it up cool. with it coming out. So you guys make sure and check it out. And for folks that are listening, what's the best place for them to go and check the book out? I guess on Instagram or artofalan.com. Okay. I have a store on there, and that's cool. I've set it up pretty simple, like just with PayPal. Gotcha. So you didn't do the Kickstarter route or any of that kind of stuff. You just went straight in. Yeah. See, now again, I was aiming to start off really small because I wasn't sure how to. Like again, I just wanted to learn. Yeah. And then right after I'd already got in contact with the printers and done all these things, one of my friends was like, here's what you should have done. And then and he explained how things could have been. And I'm like, okay, well, I kind of can't go back now. So, next time, or if this is a success, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. Gotcha. I'm going to do a Kickstarter. That's cool. So that's fun. Yeah. But you could do some really fun incentives for different levels and stuff. Like I'll draw you yourself as a gorilla, or like this would be really cool. I was told all that after. I'm like, God, that actually sounds kind of fun too. Yeah. So, yeah. That's cool. So what are the projects you're working on now? Are there stuff that you're able to talk about
Well, okay, so I'm not on a specific show right now. So
Okay.
what I'm on is called development. So basically, that's where I'm hired by different companies to do their pre-production. So it's like if they've got an idea for a show, then they'll come to me and like set up the characters. In other words, like draw the characters, draw them from different angles. And then, but like I'm on a show right now for I think I've done a few for Disney Junior and one for Nickelodeon, but I can't really say what they are because they're not really what's called greenlit or bought yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't say those. So
Gotcha.
yeah, but development, that's what I do.
Do you like that pre-production process versus once you're actually producing for a show?
Okay, well, it's weird. I was just talking to another designer there the other week. I like when I'm on a show because it's predictable. Because then, you know how I was talking about like having multiple shows? The only reason why I can work on a few different shows at a time is because I can write a schedule and stick kind of to it. Because I know what my output is for a week. Whereas development, it's really like you could send out all your designs and then get feedback where you need to redo them all, or they may like it. Usually you have to do a lot of revisions when it comes to development. But what happens is if I'm on development for a while, it gets kind of stressful because it's like a lot of revisions. Whereas when you're on a show, it's predictable, but then you run into it could get monotonous. You know, if you're on it, I've had some design shows where I was on it for over 2 years, which is crazy. I know, and I've never experienced it. It's amazing because it's steady work, but it's a long time to be drawing the same stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
so like a combination of the both or both of them. Does that help?
Well, that's what ends up happening now. And at the later point in my career, in the last like 4 or 5 years, like that's what's happened. So it's been like a mix of development. You know?
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, sweet. Well, if folks want to find out more about you, you mentioned your store already, but just the work that you're putting out, any good places to find you?
I guess the main place is Instagram. Like I find it just so easy, that and to run into other artists and stuff. But yeah, it's Art of Alan on Instagram.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before we wrap up, we got a couple folks asking some specific, I guess, character design questions, and especially since you teach, what are some of the common things you'd say maybe someone who's kind of fresh to it they're going to run into to be thinking through like, hey, this is something you need to watch out for. This is something that's going to help you think in the right way.
Okay, so one of the biggest misconceptions I find that I deal with students especially is they think it's wrong to copy other people's work, or they do it and it's kind of like some dirty little secret that they do. But so just to be careful, I want to say like copying other people's work is an amazing way to learn. You obviously don't show your copies and say it's your work.
Yeah.
That's stealing. But the key is to drawing in information from all those different artists and not just one source. Like if you like anime, that's great. But you could try to learn something from the Western side or whatever. Like take in art from all different places is what I'd recommend. And not just tracing it, but trying to understand what their process was and breaking it down from basic shapes. So like what we go through is like basic constructed shapes, with an action line and then like 3D forms and so on. And then you get to the detail.
Gotcha.
So I would say that's the big one. I always feel like I shouldn't do that because it's stealing, but it's not.
Yes.
It's a great way to learn.
What separates a good designer, someone who they can put characters out there, from those that are just amazing? Do you see there's just something in their work that you're like, they can do this? There's that X factor that's in it.
And again, everyone has their own opinions on that. So for me, what that is like, when you were a kid, when you were drawing and you had like that loose free and you don't care about anything. Mm-hmm. I personally feel that like a lot of us will go through school and you get tightened up with your style and you're all like just drawing perfect construction or all that kind of stuff and like making the designs look a certain way. Once you've been drawing a lot more, you get more comfortable, you get free like you were when you were a kid again. Yeah. And I feel personally those designers that draw those loose, spontaneous, but well done drawings, those to me are like the next level.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, man, your work definitely has tons of that. And so everyone is drawn to it. And it's so cool to see what you're putting out. Thanks for getting on Instagram as well. I know you mentioned you haven't been on there for super, super long, but you're putting out some awesome stuff. So each day I'm like, man, I need to keep drawing more because I have a long way to go. So, but yes, but for everyone let's listen, make sure check out Alan's Art of Book and just the work that he's doing. You're doing an incredible job. So thanks for hanging out with me and chatting.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you too.